Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jayan Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtottara Sri Srimad. His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtottara Sri Srimad. His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Okay, we'll be on page 429, right past the color pictures. I'm sorry? Big day. Big day. This is the first of the main 4 verses of the Gita. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. On the 6th day of August, 2024, in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 10, entitled The Opulence of the Absolute. Text number 8 on page 429. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha aham sarvasya prabhavo mattak sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha aham sarvasya prabhavo mattak sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha aham sarvasya prabhavo mattak sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha aham sarvasya prabhavo mattak sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha aham sarvasya prabhavo mattak sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha aham sarvasya prabhavo mattak sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. Go ahead, Jed. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattak sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. Ladies. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattak sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha aham sarvasya prabhavo mattak sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. Anyone online?
Aham sarvasya prabhavo
aham sarvasya prabhavo
matta sarvam pravartate
mattak sarvam pravartate
iti matva bhajante mam
iti matva bhajante mam
buddha bhava samanvita
buddha bhava samanvitaha. Aham, I, sarvasya, of all, prabhavaha, the source of generation, mattaha, from me, sarvam, everything, pravartate, emanates. Iti, thus, matva, knowing, bhajante, become devoted, mam, unto me, buddha, the learned, bhava samanvitaha, with great attention. Translation, Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Now, before we proceed with the purport, I just want to let you know that in these 4 verses, you'll find, well, especially in the first one, a lot of quotes, Sanskrit quotes. Prabhupada is quoting from Baladev Vidyabhushan's commentary. He had quoted a lot of Sanskrit to prove this from different Upanishads and so many things. So we'll try to just go through it as smoothly as possible. But it makes it much more authoritative when he's able to quote all that, because this is the essential point. Krishna is the source of everything. Okay. Purport. A learned scholar who has studied the Vedas perfectly and has information from authorities like Lord Chaitanya, and who knows how to apply these teachings, can understand that Krishna is the origin of everything in both the material and spiritual worlds. And because he knows this perfectly, he becomes firmly fixed in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. He can never be deviated by any amount of nonsensical commentaries or by fools. All Vedic literature agrees that Krishna is the source of Brahma, Shiva, and all other demigods. In the Atharva Veda, the Gopal Tapani Upanishad 124, it is said, Yo Brahmanam vidadhati purvam, yo vai vedangs chagapi yati sma Krishnaha. It was Krishna who in the beginning instructed Brahma in Vedic knowledge, and who disseminated Vedic knowledge in the past. Close quote. Then again, the Narayan Upanishad 1 says, Ata Purusho Havai Narayano Kamayati Praja Srijayati. Then the Supreme Personality, Narayan, desired to create living entities. The Upanishad continues, Narayanan Brahma Jayate, Narayanan Prajayate, Narayanan Indro Jayate, Narayanan Ashto Vasavo Jayante, Narayanan Ekadasha Rudra Jayante, Narayanan Dvarashadityaha. From Narayan, Brahma is born, and from Narayan, the patriarchs are also born. From Narayana, Indra is born. From Narayana, the 8 Vasus are born. From Narayan, the 11 Rudras are born. From Narayan, the 12 Adityas are born. Close quote. This Narayan is an expansion of Krishna. It is said in the same Vedas, Brahmanyo Devaki Putraha. The son of Devaki, Krishna, is the Supreme Personality. Narayana Upanishad 4. Then it is said, Eko vai Narayana asin, na Brahma, ne Shano, Napo, Nagni Somao, ne me Dyav Arpitavi, na Nakshatrani, na Suryaha. In the beginning of creation, there was only the Supreme Personality, Narayan. There was no Brahma, no Shiva, no water, no fire, no moon, no heaven and earth, no stars in the sky, no sun. Close quote, Maha Upanishad 1-2. In the Maha Upanishad, it is also said that Lord Shiva was born from the forehead of the Supreme Lord. Thus the Vedas say that it is the Supreme Lord, the creator of Brahma and Shiva, who is to be worshipped. In the Moksha Dharma section of the Mahabharata, Krishna also says, Prajapatim charudram chap yaham eva sujam ivai, tau himam na vijanito mama maya vimohitaho. The patriarchs, Shiva and others, are created by me, though they do not know that they are created by me, because they are deluded by my illusory energy. Close quote. In the Varaha Purana, it is also said, Narayana parodevas tasmad jatas chaturmukha tasmad rudro bhavandeva sachasarva gitam gataha. Narayan is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and from him Brahma was born, from whom Shiva was born. Lord Krishna is the source of all generations, and he is called the most efficient cause of everything. He says, quote, because everything is born of me, I am the original source of all. Everything is under me, no one is above me. Close quote. There is no supreme controller other than Krishna. One who understands Krishna in such a way from a bona fide spiritual master, with references from Vedic literature, engages all his energy in Krishna consciousness and becomes a truly learned man. In comparison to him, all others who do not know Krishna properly are but fools. Only a fool would consider Krishna to be an ordinary man. A Krishna-conscious person should not be bewildered by fools. He should avoid all unauthorized commentaries and interpretations on the Bhagavad Gita, and proceed in Krishna consciousness with determination and firmness. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So this is a very significant verse. It's not the only verse in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna explains that he's the source of everything. You may recall back in chapter 7, where he described how he was the source of all the energies. And that's actually what we're perceiving. If you see, the solid matter, the liquids, the air, the fire, all of this combine in various ways to make our environment, beginning with our own body. So Krishna says there, yes, those are all my energies. Those are all my separated energies. But then above them, there is it's called Apare Mitastanyam Brakatim Vidime Param Jivabhuta Mahabaho Yedam Daryate Jagat. Then above them is my superior energy, which is us, the jivas, the spiritual energy. And they're supporting this entire universe, beginning with our own little mini universe. You know, Prabhupada has said that these bodies of ours are like little mini universes. And so we're supporting it. It means as soon as it gets untenable, we leave, and the body reverts to its elements. And the body has to be burned or buried or whatever, right? So, but both energies come from Krishna. So he's the source of everything, because everything is simply a combination of matter and spirit in this world. So that's already been said in the earlier chapter. But here, this is definitive, and as I explained to you before, that there's so many quotes from the Shastra Prabhupada is giving to support this view, because it's an essential question. That's why it's the first question we're meant to ask, as according to the Vedanta Sutra. The famous first sutra or aphorism is Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Jigyasa is a word that keeps coming up. It means one should inquire, one should be inquisitive about something. But what is it here? It says Brahma. Brahma means the source of everything, as explained in the second sutra. That from which everything is born, which maintains everything, and which ultimately destroys everything. So now the atato is important too. Now, therefore, having come to the human form of life, don't waste it. Don't waste it in animal propensity, simply being absorbed in the relativities of this material world. Now, with our higher brain than all the other animals, we should inquire into this essential question: where have we come from? Where has everything come from? And how can I know more about that entity and according we learned from the Shastra, from the gurus, how revive my relationship with him, because we've forgotten it. That's why we're mucking around in the material world with various bodies and trying to enjoy, and then suffering and dying, going to hell, going to heaven, wandering, different bodies, different planets, different situations. But that's not our constitutional position, and it's way far from the position of Satchidananda, which is eternal blissful knowledge, which is the whole idea of eternity is like mind-boggling, because everything we know is everything's constantly changing. You know, every day we're a little bit different. We have to meet new challenges, and then as the days build up, and we can say, "Oh my God, I really changed a lot." And you know what to do? I'll put something on so I can pretend I'm young again. It's a lot of effort to try to make this life tenable, you know. In other words, that there's some pleasure here. But ultimately, we're all doomed, you know. So the question is, well, what can it be used for that's meaningful? And this is what's meaningful. To increase our knowledge. Who am I? What is this world? What is my relationship? What is my ultimate goal in life? Is there a goal? You know, all these kind of questions are answered by the Bhagavad Gita and the other Shastras. And especially we learn what to do and what not to do in order to purify our consciousness and come closer and closer to understanding this entity who is now saying to us, this person, I am the source of everything. Which in our conditioned life is inconceivable. How can some person, you mean he has hands and feet and legs and he has a brain like us, and how can he be the source of everything? That's why it's a chintya. That's why it's inconceivable with our present brain. But we are assured of the acharya, by the acharyas and by Krishna himself, that if we control the lower self by the higher self, that's the first thing, the third chapter. What is it? Here's a question for you that Arjuna asks. What is it that impels us to do things that we even know are bad for us? Who can say? You know, Ramvilas. You don't know? Kama esha, krodha esha. It's lust. It's the material desire that infects the body, the mind, the intelligence, which we may come to know this is bad for me, but by that time we're already alcoholics. Oh, it was so much fun, we would, in those parties. Remember, we used to have those parties, those beers we used to drink. I used to drink, but luckily I was blessed by Krishna. I would take 1 or 2 beers, I get sick. That's actually a blessing. Otherwise, you can really get sick. You damage your liver and your life. But I was always fascinated with the phenomenon of addiction, because I was coming up the 80s when the crack cocaine and all these different things started coming, and even the obvious ones of tobacco and alcohol. And so, but I immediately noticed as I read through the Bhagavad Gita. Well, that's just an example of our main addiction, which is to independence and attempts to enjoy separate from Krishna. There's always something to try to enjoy, right? The basic material, the enjoyment in the material world is the sex life. There's always some variety in every body, So that's always there. And we can't really do anything about it. In the lower forms of life, we don't have the intelligence. We just have to follow the instinct and follow the pushings of the senses and ultimately get eaten by some other animal or die, whatever. And then move up, until we come to the human form of life. But the human form of life, Prabhupada would love to quote this verse. This is a verse spoken by Krishna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Not right before the battle, when he went there when there was the solar eclipse, and he went there, he met the gopis. You remember there was a whole thing there. And it's a long story, but Krishna speaks this verse. Yasyatma buddhi kunape tridhatuke swadi kalatradishu bhoma ijjidi yat tirtha buddhi saline nakar hichid janesh biggeshu sa eva gokara. Gokara has 2 meanings. It can mean a cow or a donkey, a beast of burden, the kara, Or it can mean the donkey who bears the burden of getting the fodder for the cow. There's a different way you can have these combinations. So anyway, Prabhupada would always translate either cow or he would call them an ass, a jackass. So not very good. So who is like that? This is the human beings who have that status. And what is that? Hare Krishna, welcome. You're going to study Bhagavad Gita with us? He looks like it. Very intelligent. So, yasyatma buddhi. Now, the word buddhi has the conception in this context. Atma, who I am, what? You can all sit on this side. You can come over there. Kunape tridhatake. Kunape is a bag, or more precisely, it's a cadaver. It's a dead body. When the body is actually dead, we're animating it, but as soon as we leave, boom, it reverts to its actual sense. Tridhatuke, in Ayurveda you have the Tridhatus, how's it go? I forget. There's 3, they have to be in balance. Doshas. The 3 doshas, yes. And so that's what this body is. It's full of all different things that go to make up the ingredients of it. But ultimately it's just something that has ultimately be discarded. So one who identifies this is me, and we all do that before you knew anything about this. This is who I am. You can see, here's my license plate. Well, my license to drive. There's my picture, there's my address, my weight, my eye color is on there. That's who I am, it says right there. No, that's not us. That's the description of our body. We're not the body, you're not the body. That's the first thing you learn. So yes, but this is someone who has that conception. Kunapeja swadi. So there's me, who am I? And then there's my, I and my. This is the substance of false ego. I am this body, and that's what's relation to this body, which I can control and which I can enjoy. That's mine. I and mine. That's the sum and substance of the false ego. So swadi means having the mentality of being my own. Kalatra, oh yes, the wife. This is my wife. Adishu, and everything that expands from the wife. The children and the home and everything like that. Swadi Kalatradishu, and very important, Bhoma Ijjidi. this has different meanings, but one of the main ones that seems to be most pertinent today. The land that I'm living on, that I was born in, is worshipable. Nationalism. I am a, I'm a Bangladeshi. I'm not a Bengali. No, I'm sorry. Right now, I'd rather be a Bengali. Oh yeah. I won't go into that. But you identify with the land you belong. Or even, I remember that San Diego used to have a football team many years ago when I came here. And football season, the hats would appear, and everyone, and this is who I am. You identify, and everyone else is rooting, and you identify. You have a relation with it. So that's all also not so very intelligent, right? And then what happened? Yat tirtha buddhi sadile nakarachis. And to go on pilgrimage, but very superficially, just to go to the place, take a bath, come home. That's my tirtha. We did our pilgrimage. Without inquiring from the learned souls who live there. Go to Vrindavan, but you just take a walk and bathe in the Yamuna and go home. But there's so many great sages there. There's so many people to hear from. So yat tirtha buddhi, again the intelligent, salile, taking a bath. Janeshu abhigyeshu saheva, but instead of inquiring from the persons who know, the wise persons there. Such a person who has any or all of these qualities is like a cow or a donkey. In other words, not very intelligent, misusing the valuable human form of life. And so we find in the Bhagavad Gita, and especially in the Bhagavatam, such eloquent appeals to don't waste human form of life. This one is my favorites. Labdva sudurlamamidam bahusambhavante manushyam artadam anityam apihadhira turnam yateta napateda namrityavad nikshe asaya vishayakalu sarvatakshat. Very concise and very meaningful. So he says, having attained this human form of life, labdva, which is very difficult to attain, meaning it's rare. How many spiders and bugs are there outside in this little patio? Probably more than people living in Pacific Beach. They're all over. They're just as much souls as we are, And then but they're on their way up gradually, from the worm to the mosquito or whatever, up, and gradually they come to human life. And it's kind of sobering and to think that we were there once. That was our life. We've all been through so many situations. And now we're in human form of life. And here are the most fortunate people in San Diego. We're actually interested in Bhagavad Gita, this knowledge, by which we don't have to go back down again. We can actually complete the journey and go back to God, never to return. Krishna says that 4 or 5 times in the Gita. Once you go, you don't have to come back. So this is the injunction. Labdva sudurlam abhidam. Sudurlam means very rare. Bahusambhavante, many births. You've come to manusham, the same word as English, the human form of life. And, key word, artadam. It can give the actual value of life. And sometimes it's called svarta, the goal of the soul, of you yourself. Sva-arta, svarta. Manusham artadam anityam apiyadim. But you have to be dearer, you have to be sober-minded and serious about it. Because it's temporary like all of it. The clock is ticking, you can't get back a second. So how we use our time, where we place our attention, what we want to inquire about, makes all the difference in our future. And so, then he goes on. He said, don't waste any time. Turnam, immediately. Don't think, should I or shouldn't I? No, just do it. Turnam yateta, strive. It's like, sometimes sannyasis are called yatis, because they're always striving, control the senses and preaching. So turnam yateta, napateda no mrityaya, but as long as your body is not died yet, has not fallen and died. You have life in your body. Yavat, as long as that. What should you strive for? And here is the key word, nikshayasa. Shreyas is that which is good, ultimately good. Prayas is immediate sense gratification. So we want to minimize the prayas, that which we're doing, searching for immediate sensation, which doesn't help us, just keeps us bound here. And look for the shreyas. And not just the shreyas, but nikshreyas, the ultimate good. Niks is intensified. Because, after all, it says, Vishaya kalasarva taksyat. In all those other life forms I referred to, the speaker of this verse, you experience all kinds of Vishaya. You've already done that, been there, done that. All different kinds of sex life and everything else. And you've done that, and what has it gotten you? Another birth, another death, another thing. So, as my favorite verse is always pertinent, Yehi sangsvarjaja boga, dukkayona ya ebate. Adyantabanta konteya nateshu ramate buddha. Revised translation. Intelligent person does not take part in the pleasures that are due to the contact of the senses with the sense objects. O son of Kunti. This is text 522, I think it is. O son of Kunti, such pleasures are the sources of all miseries, and they have a beginning and an end. And so the wise do not take part in them. Well, then the question is, well, what kind of pleasures do they take part in? Previous verse, 21. Yehi Bhaya sparshes asaktatmat vindityatmadi yat sukham sab brahma yoga yuktatma sukham akshayam ashnute. Now I'm going to begin at the end of this verse because this is the punchline, you should know. Sukham means happiness. But the material happiness comes and goes. We have experience of that. I'm sure the boy knows that too. Right? Can't always be watching your favorite TV program. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to tease you. The fact that you're here means that you're a very fortunate soul. Please forgive me. So, but the point is, whatever pleasure it is, we can make our own list, we know them. Eating, whatever. It has a beginning and an end. And why does he say it's the source of all misery? Because if it's totally material, it's not the pleasure of serving Krishna. Then it'll put a desire seed in your heart to do it again. So it keeps you entrapped. Because what happens? When you finally leave this body, you don't die. This is one of my favorite verses. I made it up myself. Everybody dies. Nobody dies. Wake up and open your eyes. You're not that body, you're a pure spirit soul. Chant the holy name and attain life's goal. The Hare Krishna movement. Okay, back to our verse. So, one can't waste any time because this inspiration to even investigate it, that can also come and go with our flickering mind. So as soon as you get an inkling, I should do this, you should do it. Do it means basically chant Hare Krishna, and come to Bhagavad Gita class at least once a week. Okay, I'll go on Taco Tuesday then get a nice thing. That's why we have such a big crowd. I'm thinking we should start a Waffle Wednesday. What do you think? Why not? You don't know. I don't know if anyone's here. Maybe you were here. We used to have a evening dinner every night in the temple room. Every night. And then, of course, the big one on Sunday. But it was a special. They had these little portable little platforms that you would eat on, and everyone was, and would come in there and it'd be kirtan and the feast, and then it was like that. So now, and I can see why it was good. Taco Tuesday, the free feast, and then why not? Let's go to class. So anyway, I don't want to. We're all very fortunate. I'm very fortunate. So so here's the verse in the summary. It says, "You've attained the rare human form of life." And why is it valuable? Because only in this form can you inquire into the absolute truth and be fortunate to get association of a pure devotee and get the seed of bhakti planted in your heart. It means faith and knowledge and the determination to practice, you see. That's the seed. We have to water it and we have to tend the garden by hearing and chanting. But you have that. Otherwise, in any other form of life, it's not going to be. So you very fortunate. Manusham, human form. Give the goal of life, going back to Godhead. Anityam, but like every other form, it's temporary. So don't waste any time. That's why the next word is turnam. Immediately, without wasting time. Strive for the ultimate good, nikshayasa, which is what? Pure love of God and returning back to Godhead. You see? And what's back to Godhead? So many books. Read the Krishna book, read the Bhagavad Gita, read the Bhagavatam itself. Describes that world where Krishna is there, everything is blissful. I wrote this one poem. So here's a painting. There's a painting some of you have seen. Krishna's out in the forest, sitting in a very idyllic spot, and there's a little cow in front of him. There's a little deer. He's got a dove sitting on his hand, and like that. And so it's a very idyllic scene. And so it says, the sweetness of Sri Krishna's form beguiles. Still sweeter is his face like autumn moon, but sweeter than the sweetest is his smile, whose luscious beauty makes the gopis swoon. Govinda's beauty captivates the doves, the swans, the deer, the cows, and every tree. Indeed, in Braja, every creature loves Sri Krishna and is drowned in ecstasy. That all-enchanting land is paradise, our home, where we may dwell eternally. Most welcome there are those who pay the price to learn to love Sri Krishna perfectly. So that's the goal and the process of bhakti in a nutshell. And Srila Prabhupada gave us the information, the knowledge of what to strive for, and what this world is, who we are, and the method by which we can achieve it. So we shouldn't waste any time. Okay, any questions on that very important verse? For who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? No surprise, it's Krishna. He says so right here. Yes, but
Last verse you said, what is the reference?
I'm sorry?
The last verse you said, what is the reference?
What is the essence?
Reference.
Oh, the reference. Are you talking about the little poem?
Yeah.
There's no reference. The reference is here. I'll tell the origin, how those poems get, because they all have paintings behind them. There's 12 of these things that are meditation on ISKCON art. And so in 2004, as many of you may know, the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust puts out a Vaishnav calendar every year, which hangs on the wall. And we have beautiful paintings there with the captions. And then you see all the dates and where, when is Janmashtami, when is Radhastami, everything is there. So one year, this 2004, my old friend Surya Prabhu, who's passed a few years ago, he said, why don't we put out a desk calendar? One that'll just sit on a desk and you flip the little, smaller thing. It could be a little more convenient for everybody. So I said, okay, fine. Can I write poems for the captions? I said, sure, why not? So I picked out these nice, pictures. And actually, that is always, when there's a holiday, when it's Gaur Purnima, we should have one with Lord Chaitanya, Ram. So there's one for Ram and Lord Chaitanya. So all these paintings, I meditated a little bit, and then I just prayed and came up with these different poems. Like there's one where it's not for any holiday or anything. Krishna's walking into the forest. One of my favorite paintings of all time. I was there when it was being painted by Muralidhar back in Brooklyn in 1973. Maybe 74. And it depicts, those who are familiar with the Bhagavatam or the Krishna book, there's a chapter 21 called Venu Gita. Venu Gita, why is it called Venu Gita? Because it's the songs of the gopis, and it's often focused on verses about the flute. They're hearing the flute in the distance. He's playing, and they're inspired to utter these beautiful verses. So before they do that, there's an introductory verse, and this goes like this: Barha pidam natabadavapu karnayo karnikaram bimrun vasak kanaka kapisham vaijayanting chamalam randran veno hadadasudeyapur ihan gopa vrindar Vrindaranyam Swapadanamanam Pravishan Gita Kirtihi. You all got prasadam, I trust? You got prasadam? You had some prasadam? You're going to have it now. Anyway, no. I'm just asking if you got prasadam. And apparently you got it, or you will get it soon. Very good. Hare Krishna. So here's the English translation, roughly that I concocted, if you will. With lovely peacock plume upon his head, and fragrant flower placed upon each ear, he enters Braja's woods with graceful tread, a handsome dancing actor without peer. His golden yellow raiment brightly glows, his splendid garland reaches to his knees, and from his luscious lips the nectar flows, and fills his flute with charming melodies. As Krishna thus begins his blissful day, with cowherd friends who sing his glory sweet, he beautifies Vrindavan's forest way with fine impressions of his lotus feet. So that's a nice little meditation, and I can send you the poems for free. Just, if you can remember, dravida108@gmail.com. We're putting that offer in each newsletter, but I think we have to maybe feature, maybe we'll have a little poem, and then if you want more, then write this, maybe that'll All right, so let's moving on to the next verse. They're all important. Now, the question is, because this verse said, those who are intelligent worship me with all their heart, right? So how? So we have, just before we proceed, here's more confusion. Maybe Sambandha Abhideya Priyojana. Does that ring a bell with some of you? Sambandha is basically, who is God? What is this world? Who am I? What are the relationships? You see? So the first verse is all Sambandha. God is saying, I'm God. Krishna is saying, everything comes from me. That's the basic definition. So then we come to the practice, and that's the second verse. Matchitta mangata prana bodhiyantak parasparam katayantascha mam nityam tushyanti chadamanti cha. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me, their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. Purport. Pure devotees, whose characteristics are mentioned here, engage themselves fully in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Their minds cannot be diverted from the lotus feet of Krishna. Their talks are solely on the transcendental subjects. The symptoms of the pure devotees are described in this verse specifically. Devotees of the Supreme Lord are 24 hours daily engaged in glorifying the qualities and pastimes of the Supreme Lord. Their hearts and souls are constantly submerged in Krishna, and they take pleasure in discussing him with other devotees. In the preliminary stage of devotional service, they relish the transcendental pleasure from the service itself, and in the mature stage, they are actually situated in love of God. Once situated in that transcendental position, they can relish the highest perfection which is exhibited by the Lord in his abode. Lord Chaitanya likens transcendental devotional service to the sowing of a seed in the heart of the living entity. There are innumerable living entities traveling throughout the different planets of the universe, and out of them there are a few who are fortunate enough to meet a pure devotee and get the chance to understand devotional service. The devotional service is just like a seed, and if it is sown in the heart of a living entity, and if he goes on hearing and chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, that seed fructifies, just as the seed of a tree fructifies with regular watering. The spiritual plant of devotional service gradually grows and grows until it penetrates the covering of the material universe and enters into the Brahma Jyoti effulgence in the spiritual sky. In the spiritual sky also that plant grows more and more until it reaches the highest planet, which is called Goloka Vrindavan, the supreme planet of Krishna. Ultimately, the plant takes shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna and rests there. Gradually, as a plant grows fruits and flowers, that plant of devotional service also produces fruits, and the watering process in the form of chanting and hearing goes on. This plant of devotional service is fully described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 19. It is explained there that when the complete plant takes shelter under the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, one becomes fully absorbed in love of God. Then he cannot live even for a moment without being in contact with the Supreme Lord, just as the fish cannot live without water. In such a state, the devotee actually attains the transcendental qualities in contact with the Supreme Lord. The Srimad Bhagavatam is also full of such narrations about the relationship between the Supreme Lord and his devotees. Therefore, the Srimad Bhagavatam is very dear to the devotees, as stated in the Bhagavatam itself, 12:13-18. Srimad Bhagavatam Puranam Amalamhyan Vaishnavanam Priyam. In this narration, there is nothing about material activities, economic development, sense gratification, or liberation. Srimad Bhagavatam is the only narration in which the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord and his devotees is fully described. Thus, the realized souls in Krishna consciousness take continual pleasure in hearing such transcendental literatures, just as a young boy and girl take pleasure in association. That's a great analogy. That's from a verse. Rupa Goswami prays, just as a young boy loves a young girl loves a young boy, so similarly let me be enthralled with you, Krishna, like that. So that's another very rich verse in purport. And you can see that this is Matchitta, just that one phrase, oh, you think of me, how to think of Krishna. Well, of course, by chanting his holy name. But the holy name expands. There's so many other things. Reading a Bhagavad Gita, that's another way of thinking of Krishna. Doing practical service, just coming and worshiping the deities, seeing the deities. And this is one of the verses that I was sharing up at the Ratha Yatra. From the Padyavali. It's a kind of expansion of this verse. Aho bir nakale baduyate sudha sudhara mulalam padebade dine dine chandana chandra shitalam yasho yashodatana yasigiyate. So, now you have to know a little bit about sandalwood. Sandalwood pulp is cooling, right? That's why we have Chandan Yatra in the middle of summer. You don't have it in winter. And to make it even more cooling, they put a little fine camphor powder in there, right? Not the camphor that you use for the moths. That's a different kind of camphor. This is camphor. So that's very cooling. So now the verse says, and then you have to, this Kali Yuga is like a fire burning us all, Because at every step they taste a flood of wondrous nectar sweet, whose cooling power sandal paste enhanced with camphor can't defeat. They feel as if the raging blaze of Kali's days had ne'er begun. How blessed are they who fill their days with praise of Shri Yashoda's son. And that's what Prabhupada is describing here. You find the great devotees, like Prabhupada, what was his day like? He gets up at 12 at midnight, when it's quiet, all the different things he has to manage in ISKCON. He can actually translate. So he's reading Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam mostly, Sanskrit, translating it, which is a complete absorption, obviously. And he's preaching to us because he's creating a book that will then be read by thousands. So he's filling his day, which began at midnight, with glorification of Krishna. And then eventually time passes and the devotees have Mangalartik. And if they're singing the wrong tune, he'll tell his aide to go down and stop the kirtan and please, he's listening. Several times that happened. But so he's hearing, and then of course afterward he'll go down and receive Guru Puja, and the devotees will be chanting Hare Krishna, and then he'll give a wonderful class. This is what he did, and then Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam in the morning, obviously. And then what? Well, then there's so many devotees to meet, and encourage them in Krishna consciousness, chastise them for messing up. One way or another, he's glorifying Krishna, right? He's following the order of his spiritual master. He's causing the movement to grow for everybody's, and it continues that way. Then there'll be some reporters or some meeting with a professor or with some cleric from the church. He met with a couple of priests and everything. But it was always, if there was nothing on the schedule, he'd just get back to his writing. So the point is, he was filling his day with glorification of Krishna. And he liked to hear sometimes his devotees give class, because they were giving back what he gave to them, and he would make little critiques, but basically it was satisfied. So he gave an example of how it can fill one's life. And with that faith and experience, just like we had that Ratha Yatra. So you're on the kirtan, it's blissful, and you're chanting, you're hearing, you're trying to correct the drummer who's out of tune, whatever. But not out of tune, I'm sorry, out of time. We have to control the percussion section a little more. And it was ecstatic, but it could have been Hare Krishna. But the point is, it's so many thousands of devotees glorifying Krishna. Just looking around, you can get enlivened. So many people. And then for me, one of the high points was the memorable kirtan at the end. I don't know if you got a chance to hear. You had Raghunath Dath in the middle. I don't think it was Raghunath. He's been around for a long time. We're old friends. And Jhanavi Harrison. For a long time, I have to be honest. I thought she was the daughter of George Harrison, but she's not. But she inherited a nice musical sense, It's such a heavenly kirtan and exciting, And what was they doing? It's chanting Hare Krishna, But Hare Krishna is because it's Krishna himself, because it's not different. It's ever fresh. You never get tired. So that's what these festivals are for, glorifying and the books selling and meeting old friends and everything, And it's not like, I didn't even spend any money. My friend David bought me a coconut. He bought me a dab. And that was, and then I had the free feast, which every year consists of one thing, a big plate of pasta. Did they ever have that pasta? It's incredible. I understand there's a whole disciplic succession of pasta. Mahanta invented it. Mahanta was doing this. Didn't see him. I don't know if he's still doing it. In the 70s, with the first one in 77, he was there with Ratna Bhushan, these two heroes. I didn't see him either. So he was cooking it every year. 77, they're going back 47 years, So a few years ago, he gave it up. He taught Nirkula how to make it, Vaisheshika's wife, and she was doing it. But then I heard that she also passed out on, the recipe to someone else. They're doing it now. But it's come down, So there's all these different varieties, and you can see that's a little sample of the spiritual world. There's always some different way of serving Krishna or thinking about him, glorifying him in separation. That's what this Venu Gita is. All the Gopi Gits are in separation from Krishna. There's 4 of them in the Bhagavatam. 4. Well, I think there's one extra one. When Krishna is going away, being taken by Akrura, they're also singing something, and that's also something. Oh, Providence, you are so cruel, Anyway, so we can also learn those. That's what they're for, Vama Bahakata Vama Kapolo, Volgita Budadara Patavinam, Komalanga de Badashita Margam, Gopi Hirati Yatramokunda, Vyomayana Vanita Sahasiddha, Vismatasta Dubadaya Salajja, Kama Margana Samarpata Chitta, Kashmanam Yudapasmitanivya. That's the first pair of the Yugal Gits. They're in pairs. And they're saying, I should probably give you a translation. I know you'll probably be disappointed. So Vama Baho, left arm, is touching the left cheek. Now I'm a flute player, before I even heard about Krishna. So left arm, left cheek, that's a long flute. He's playing a big flute like this. And it says in the Nectar Devotion, he had different size flutes, so they're saying he's playing this one. So he's blowing the flute with the delicate fingers. He's stopping making the sound. They're meditating on that. Vama Kapolo, Volgita Brur, in moving his eyebrows in time. There's a verse like that where he's playing. Volgita Brur Adararpa Devenum. Komalang, with his delicate fingers, he's stopping the holes and playing the flute. And what's the result? The demigoddesses in the sky, they're riding in the airplanes with their husbands, and they hear the flute little coming from the earth. Oh, let's go down. What is that? That's very fascinating. So they say, Vyomayana Vanitas Sahasiddhaya, Vismatas to the Badhaya Salajja. So these ladies, they're hearing the flute, and they say, let's go down and hear more. So they go down, and then they become embarrassed because they're with their husband. And they're being attracted to Krishna, and so they have to kind of hide that, But then Vishwanath Chakravarti adds, and the husbands are also embarrassed because they're next to their wives. They're also being attracted. I swear to God, I'll bring the commentary. So that's number 1. And it goes on like that. And then it's interesting. All right, it's getting late. As they get into it, the beat, they add a separate beat. It's da 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 da, but then it's anucharai da 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 dum da 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 dum ba da dum bum bum ba dum da 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 dum. Anucharai samanavarna taviya adi purusha hivachal labhuti vanacharo gajita teshu taranti venunava yatigasi yadahi vanalatasta dava atmani vishnum vyanjayandi hiva pushpa paladya. So what this means is that Anucharai, those are his companions. So they're visualizing him out there in the forest. And Anucharai Samanavarna Taviya. And they're all praising him. They're also glorifying Krishna, his friends. And they say it's just as if it's the Supreme Personality of God. It's surrounded by his powerful energy. They don't know he's God, Samanavarna Taviya Adi Purusha Iva Achalabhuti. Vanasharo, they're going through the forest, and then on the side of the mountain, Govardhan, and he's calling the cows with his flute. He can do that, the names. And then when that happens, the Vanalatas, the creeper is growing, and the trees, it's suddenly like this time-lapse photography you've all seen. Suddenly they bloom fast, It takes weeks, but they do. So then suddenly the flowers and the fruits bloom in ecstasy, like a yogi suddenly realizing Vishnu in his heart. That's what they say. And not only that, but the weight of the fruits and everything, and now they're taking the vines and the branches down. They're offering their obeisance to Krishna as he's passing, and the sap is flowing just like tears. And that's just 2 verses, So look it up, 1035. If you don't have the books, you can go into database.io, you can find it's available. And if you need help with the meter, I can help you with that. So this is all treasure, and then it's completely satisfying. I've been on so many long trips, bus trips in India, plane trips with devotees, and you're sharing verses and you're reading to each other, and the time goes just like that. And that's what's going on in the spiritual world, and we can make this a spiritual world. So that's what's happening. So Machitama Gatapana, mind fixed on me, the life force gated to me, always preaching to each other, Bodhi and Bodhaspradam. And then from doing that, Tushyanti Charamanti. Tushyanti means they feel great satisfaction and spiritual pleasure, just by glorifying Krishna, hearing and chanting. And if you're alone, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. You can always access that reservoir of pleasure. That's where the reservoir of pleasure comes in. All right, we have to end and have a nice kirtan. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Hari Hari Bol. Let's do it again tomorrow. We may not have tacos, but we still have the Gita. Hari Bol.